In Beautiful Blurs Part 2, I introduced you to the concept of layer comps. And it's under Window, Layer Comps. I showed you how to drop it in here. But right now, we could, name this something clever like First Texture. And because this is just a visibility situation where what's on, we can click OK. I played around off screen and I thought, oh, if layer comps save the different settings in levels or black and white, we can save all our textures right here. Unfortunately, unless I'm missing something, that's not happening. So I will be at Adobe this summer and I'll talk to the Photoshop people. I get to meet with the Photoshop team and the product president, the guy in charge of Photoshop. So it's kind of cool to sit down with those people and discuss what would be really helpful. So that'll be on the plate. But for now, because we can save that out, we have the texture saved right there, and we don't need to waste a layer, a physical layer at this point. But if you wanted to, let's come up above everything and then Shift Option Command N and E for, I hit W instead, and E to make our first texture. And we could, once again, give it some very clever name. And to save room up here, we can just throw this in a group. We can hit Command G, even though it's only one layer, and it's inside a group, and we can call this Textures. So we don't have a bazillion layers up here clogging up, pushing all our working layers down to the bottom. Now, the black and white filter, which I promised to get to. Let's double click on the black and white filter icon to pull up this dialog box, and you can see there's more here ready to be seen. I'm not going to run through all these. It's always a good idea to look through and then you can customize it. But I want to show you the difference some images have between high contrast blue and, oh, nothing happened because my texture layer is on. Turn that off and back to the default, which is what we saved, and then the high contrast blue, which really darkens all this stuff. And if we turn our touch-up layer on and off, you can see what's going on there. And then the difference between the high contrast blue and the high contrast red. Two extremely different results. So you can see that we can have a different set of textures for each one of these. If we wanted, we could save this texture right here, coming up to the top. Happens if we turn this, whoops, turn that off. I don't know. Command N. Hey, it does work. And then we can drop that texture in there. So if we turn this on, we now have two textures sitting here. So that's kind of cool. What happens now when we move up and start playing with levels? If you've done the prior texture videos, you know something about what's going to happen. But let's remember that this texture here that we didn't name, this layer 1, we're working with a high contrast red here, right? So maybe something like HCR. One could be a clue to where we came from, because remember, that's where we are with the filter. So saving these names, not as important as you'd think, because we're going to be saving so many different textures, but leaving yourself breadcrumbs is never a bad idea, as is turning off this uppermost layer so it doesn't get in our way for the next step.